Mr. Speaker, that our work is not done. We know that we need to deal with those anxieties and those challenges in a real and important way so that people can continue to have confidence in the future.
This is a budget that gives crumbs to Canadians when this government has already given the entire pie to the wealthiest.
This budget is not a serious fiscal plan for the country. It is a $41 billion corruption cover-up.
The government tabled its pre-election budget, hoping, of course, to change the channel. As you heard there, though, the opposition just wouldn't let them have it. So whose messaging was loudest, and what does the budget tell us about the Liberals' campaign strategy, if anything? At issue is with me in the West Block tonight. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. We're in like a basement area. But anyway, we're all here together, and that's what makes us happy. Let's start with the shenanigans. Conservatives won't like it if I call it that because they believe this is a serious matter. But let's talk about what they were trying to do today, trying to slow down the vote, trying to obviously successfully drowning out Bill Morneau. Was that effective?
Successfully or unsuccessfully? I don't think so.
No.
I think that on a day like this, if you're not going to like the budget, and there are reasons to not like the budget on substance, people would be looking for some sense of what a Prime Minister Scheer or a Prime Minister Singh would bring to the country. That's not what they got today.
Andrew?
I think there are other times when they can do that. I think their priority at this point, rightly or wrongly, was to say these are not normal times. This is not business as usual. We cannot go along as if we had not just witnessed what we saw today or couldn't see today, which was the committee meeting in camera and apparently not even discussing which witnesses to call, but simply trying to change the subject in the committee there, which is pretty contemptuous, it seems to me, of the opposition. So I think whether it succeeds with the public or not, we shall see. The public will judge. Yeah. But I think they were entitled to say this is not a normal situation.
Althea?
They may be entitled to say this is not a normal situation, but the tactics that they took in the House of Commons this afternoon by heckling during the entire finance minister's speech, saying, let her speak, let her speak. I mean, I was actually here, and you could feel the ceiling shake by the pounding on their desks. I mean, they look like children in a classroom who are misbehaving. And to Chantal's point, if you are looking for the government in waiting, I'm not sure that the Conservative MPs this afternoon really showed themselves to be the government in waiting.
Yep. Let's agree that tomorrow morning, on all of our media, you're going to see budget items and critiques of the budget and budget analysis. And there is nowhere where what the Conservatives did today fits in that frame. And I am not convinced, as I was not when they called for the resignation of the Prime Minister, that overshooting the target really scores points in the end.
I think that's right. Calling the Prime Minister to resign, I agree, was overshooting. I'm not as persuaded as it's overshooting. Again, the public will judge. But I think the opposition is not required to concede to the government's strategy of basically saying there's no story here, now we want to talk about budgets.
Sure.
There's still a story because the government hasn't answered anybody's questions.
Sure, but they do at some point have to say, here's what we think works in the budget and here's what doesn't. Maybe they'll do that tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. They certainly have to do so by, say, election day.
Okay, so let's turn to the substance of the budget. There certainly wasn't a big one-ticket item in there, a big flashy thing for us all to look at. I'm not sure I expected that anyway, given that something has to stick around for the platform. But what did we make of it overall in terms of a pre-electoral document, a document that is trying to reset the narrative? You want to start?
I thought it was, and I'm not casting judgment on the budget strategy, which is another kettle of fish, but I thought it was a smart political document that hit a lot of good points for the Liberals. It has overjoyed, and I'm not underestimating the impact of that, overjoyed the mayors of Canada's major cities in a way that I've rarely seen them so overjoyed, because it gives them suddenly an influx of money to do with what they want, and not what their premiers would want. And it also featured some chapters, a very long chapter on Indigenous reconciliation, that were clearly meant to send the message, if you don't like us, you're not going to see chapters like that and the alternative.
Yeah, it did seem, though, well, this is my thought, that they were trying to shore up people that they used to have, that they were spending a lot of time reaching out to people that they should just normally not have to go so far to get. I don't know.
That's right. Well, in particular with things like the mayors, you got people who will then repeat your message. They aren't just going to be predisposed to you favorably. They're going to go out and proselytize for you. It was an oddly slapdash type of document, and which is strange because they've got all these months to prepare it. But there were signature initiatives in there that were only barely sketched out. Now, maybe there's some master plan where they're going to fill in the details later, and it's all part of the run-up to the election. But it felt like it had been kind of cobbled together in the Prime Minister's office. Some of these things I don't think have been thoroughly thought through. So that's point one. I think that's partly because the revenues are coming in so fast that's all the government can do to keep up. It used to be finance ministers had the tough task of balancing the budget. Now the Liberals have to work hard to not balance the budget, and they pretty clearly made a decision there to deliberately sort of make a divide between them and the Conservatives on that. It's not because they couldn't balance the budget. But also it seems like maybe that some of the turmoil in the Prime Minister's office over the last weeks and months may have taken its toll.
I mean, David Cochrane said smartly, this is you either decide you want deficits or you want programs. And we're telling you, you want us to get rid of the deficit or you want programs. And we're telling you this is what we're giving you, programs, but we're not balancing the budget anymore.
I think that's what Bill Murno's been saying for the last 4 years, and he repeated that message again today. I mean, they had a revenue windfall in ways that they didn't expect to have all that income tax revenue come in, and they decided to spend everything. And yeah, some programs are not completely fleshed out, or you wonder if they've thought about maybe the consequences of their plan, like the home buyers program, for example. But other ones seem like they might just be building blocks for a future election platform commitment, like the Canada Training Credit, which is actually pretty small when you look at the numbers. The pharmacare program, it looks like they're laying the groundwork to announce other things. So they have to leave themselves a little bit of room, and they don't have a lot of fiscal room, so maybe there's just some future policy announcement rooms there.
It's a false choice, of course, deficits or programs.
Yes, I'm not saying it's just one or the other, but still,
the country is not going to go to ruin if we run small deficits, and neither is the country going to go to ruin if we don't run small deficits.
Right.
You know, we would have lots and lots of programs if the government spending was only $310 billion and not $325 billion.
But voters, and we've seen that time and again, do not actually reward governments for saying, I've balanced the books. If they did, Philippe Couillard would still be Quebec Premier, to name just one recent casualty of having balanced the books and gotten, where is he today? I am not too sure. So I don't think that they're building blocks as much as signals, and I read the budget and thought they still are planning to eat whatever is left of the NDP lunch.
Oh, yeah.
That's a choice that they have made.
Yeah.
So they've got nice words on pharmacare. I don't think they are really putting together a pharmacare program on the basis of what I saw. I think it's a lot harder than just saying, oh, we're just putting building blocks. But on housing, they're trying to send signals that this is where we're going. And I was looking at some of the union reaction. In the old days, the unions did not applaud Liberal budgets. No. But a lot of them did today.
But I think the opposition would be well advised to get off the deficit. I don't think that's the issue that's going to win.
No.
I think what you can say is a lot of the spending is not well considered, is not proper role of government. And what's the thing that the government didn't talk about at all, which is growth, productivity, business investment, the things are going to make for rising living standards over time, the things that particularly the provinces are going to need. The provinces need a growing economy even more than the feds do, because the provinces have this huge fiscal burden coming at them in terms of the aging population for healthcare. And if we continue growing as slowly as every projection shows we're going to grow, the provinces are going to have real fiscal
that's very depressing. I'm so glad we have Andrew. Let's just do one go-around on whether this is enough. You know, I realized they were going to do a budget anyway. All those things were going to happen. But if they are trying to reset the narrative and get people to talk about it and not SNC Lavalin, will this do it? Or what do they have to do so that it becomes that, Elvia?
I don't think we're going to be talking about the budget next week, but I think that we will probably be talking about some things that are in the budget in the months to come.
Right.
So in that way, perhaps successful. There are things there for women. There are things there for young people. There are even things there for seniors, which the Liberals won in 2015, but they look like they might be losing now. Yep. And so they really have carved out the electorate, and there is a little something for everybody. I mean, there were so many flattering emails in my inbox from every lobby group under the sun that there is like no consistent narrative in this budget, but there is literally something for everybody, it seems.
What do you think, Andrew?
I'm not sure we'll be talking about the budget that much in the days to come. I think it's entirely possible we'll be talking about the SNC Lavalin affair. But the opposition needs more fresh revelations, they need news. But they've also got this business of the government shutting down the committee. I remember a week ago people were saying, you're too hasty, they've just put off the decision. Yeah. They clearly are not going to allow any further witnesses on that. And if the opposition can get some more oxygen in the story, then that can be killed.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the committee. It was Michael Wernick and McClellan being appointed to it was like, let's shut everything down.
Okay, but at the end of the day, when you decide that you're going to change governments, and I thought this budget set the choices, because they are working, not only do they want to eat the NDP lunch, but they are setting themselves up against the Conservatives.
Yes.
That's the alternative.
Yes.
Unless the Conservatives do a better job of showcasing themselves as an alternative and not just we're going to go after the government on this, they will win the job of official opposition.
I agree that they have to do that, but part of winning power is also what do people think about the Prime Minister? And the Prime Minister's standing with the public, I think, has been materially hurt by this scandal and by other things before that.
Yeah.
If they can damage him enough, that is part of winning a power.
Sure, but the thing the Prime Minister said even before walking in today was the Conservatives don't have a plan. They're not talking about the economy. I mean, that was clearly sort of the trap that was laid for them, right? And at some point you have to pivot out of it, I would
That's
imagine.
right. So they can't just go on one message or the other, but I think the combination is feasible for them.
Last thought on that?
I mean, now we might be talking about this at the Ethics Committee, so maybe there is new oxygen on this issue. I think the trouble is the government has gone to great lengths to put this whole issue to bed. All the players have basically resigned or left. I think the question remains about whether Jane Philpott and Jody Wilson-Raybould should be still in caucus, and that will continue to percolate, I think. But in terms of fresh oxygen for the scandal to continue, I mean, everybody abroad looks at Canada and wonders what the scandal is truly about.
10 seconds.
And the real question is the divide between our fascination within the bubble going to be matched by public fascination? I'm not convinced that I see that happening.
Okay, thanks everybody. Good to see you in person in this weird basement location of the West Block. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. You can look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, and our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational. Don't worry, we'll be back on Thursday.